Right, hello there. So what I've decided to do this time is to mix things up a bit, and I've decided to select one of my own tracks for a couple of reasons. One, because I feel that it includes some other things that haven't been in the other racing videos, and two, um, anyone that's been in any of my races before, obviously anyone who's made their own races will realise that knowing your own track might give you a bit of an advantage over other people. So the intention of this is to try and show some of the lines I take, and that might sort of make it less unfair if someone's racing me on this race. Sometimes I do tend to wait and let people pass me, but rather than doing it that way, thought I might as well show what I do on my own race. So I'm going to take my T20 out onto this one. I'll start with the slow lap and explain each part, and then I'll get onto a full lap and try and bring it all together. So first things first, I'm gonna, and as daft as this sounds, I'm gonna turn around and drive back first, because there's something I need to demonstrate with this first sort of checkpoint here. Well, not necessarily the checkpoint, but the route that you take to get to it. So I go to about here, should do it. Right, imagine I've come off of the last section and I'm coming back onto my next lap. I want to come over to the right and turn ever so slightly to the left just to line my car up so it jumps this way. If I don't do that, if my car jumps to the right, I will end up flying over this wall and I'll go towards sort of where that tanker is or where the customs is, sort of thing. So by not getting the right line heading into this sort of drop that you end up with here, your car will be pointing that way, and then you'll be going over there. So definitely something you want to avoid there. So it might not seem like a big deal, but it's very easy to just point slightly too far to the right, and all of a sudden your car's gone just because of how much air you get off of that section. So that's the first thing. Now coming down here, you want to move to the outside to the left, brake quite heavily here, or I say heavily but not for very long, just a sort of short bit on the brake but fully, and then you want to turn, because it's uphill and the sliding becomes unpredictable, as it does in a few other places on the track, which I'll come on to, and downhill as well, but that affects it differently. You're going to come to the inside here and then go back to the outside again. Nice smooth line, maintain the most speed possible. Same here, outside, back to the inside, and here, by doing that, you line yourself up perfectly for this corner. If you were on the inside and you go to the outside, what it means is that you'd be over here, and then you'd have to have a sharper left turn, and that makes it a bit awkward, so you want to try and avoid that. So make sure that at the end of all that, you find yourself on this side of the track at this point, so your car's pointing straight through here. Now get the left side of the car as close as you can to this yellow bit, but watch out, because here it's quite bumpy, so you want to turn as smoothly as possible. As you saw, my car was jumping around something chronic there, and when I push it on my next lap in a minute, it is probably quite likely that my car will slide a little bit and I'll have to sort of correct back. You'll see what I mean in a minute, but smoothly as possible, and even then the bump does unsettle your car. But if you're turning more sharply, like I was saying a minute ago, if you found yourself over here and you had to turn really sharply through here, chances are that's going to happen, or worse. So you really want to try and avoid that. And after that point, after you've gone through here, you want to be lining up like this again, similar sort of thing. Yellow point on the left, straight through there, and then back to the outside over here, gradually over here, and then to the inside. Brake a little bit earlier on this bit. Like I was saying, you've got uphill and downhill situations on this track, so because you're going downhill. Uphill, what tends to happen is the car slides when you don't expect. Downhill, it tends to make braking and sliding a lot more likely. So they're slightly different effects, but they're both cause for concern. So come to the inside here after you've been sort of on the outside before then, and then go back to the outside again, and you're setting yourself up for this corner now. And what you want to do here, it's weird this, because you want to stay on the outside right until the end of this. It's like a two corner thing, so you'll see what I mean. So when you get to here, you'll drive around here all the way over here, and then because you're going so wide over here right towards this pavement nearly, and then you start turning in late, and what that allows is that your car is pointing straight and you can literally just floor it up this hill. Now it's a good idea to do that, and when you get used to it, when you tackle it all in one at high speed, panning the camera around will help you see the whole of these two corners and treat it as one. If you don't do that, say I started here and I turned in early rather than sticking to the outside, I turn in here, what it means is when I get to here I've then got to turn right, and look how much slower it is because I'm having to take a sharp turn around there rather than coming from the outside and just driving straight up the hill. It might seem slower initially to go to the outside first, but it definitely is faster. If you go over here, all the way over here, and then point in and just floor it like that, look how much drive you get suddenly. It's definitely easier to do that. Now, another uphill section here, but you definitely want to watch out. This is probably the most lethal part of the track, which can catch you out, is because there's so many bumps here. You have to brake here for the corner that's way over there. As daft as that sounds, because if you're travelling at high speed, difficult to see when I'm demonstrating it now, but you might see it again on the next lap. The car sort of, it's weird, it sort of slides over to the right, and you usually end up sort of hitting this pole or going way over here, or sliding and overcorrecting and ending up here or in the other tyres. So what you want to do is brake. If you end up feeling like you're going slower through the corner than maybe you perhaps could, if you feel like there's more to get out of the corner, I wouldn't worry too much, because it's much better to be safe rather than sorry. You know, I mean, it's a case of even if you brake too early, it's better than bumping off and sort of sliding into that telegraph pole or the wall or something. So brake early if you need to, re-stabilise your car, dab on the brake again, and then just get a nice smooth line through here, close to the tyres, and smoothly back onto here. Nice power down this straight. You come over this bridge and you want to keep to the right for what's coming next. I'm just going to do it and explain it afterwards. Brake heavily and turn in, get nice and close to the inside. Now that's very difficult because you're sort of coming down at high speed. The braking point and how much you slide your car and everything, it really does depend on what car you're driving, but for the T20 it's fairly forgiving, fairly heavy on the brake, slide it in, but don't turn too suddenly, because otherwise your car might slide and hit the lamppost. So just a little bit smoothly to start with, and then a bit sharper once you pass this point, so you can realign yourself back over to the left and line yourself up for this corner where you want to come over here, and you want to, I mean, there are a couple of lines you could take through here. Actually, you could sort of cut on this side of the lamppost, but I would suggest sort of following on the left of these two sort of traffic lights and just going through like this and getting a nice smooth line. Similar to a lot of the other races as well in these videos, there are some weird lines you can take. You can go really wide to keep extra speed up. You can go between really narrow gaps and take huge risks. But I'm trying to show sort of not really necessarily the normal line, but the sort of some of the faster lines, which I think you could take most of the time, provided you were in a racing situation with other cars. Some of the lines to get quickest laps, yeah, fair enough, they will get the quickest laps, but they won't be as useful in a racing situation where it'd be more of a risk. And then through here you're going to go to the right and line up, and there's a bit of a kink in the road there, so you want to watch out for the walls on the left and the right. Just make sure that before this point you come as far to the right as possible. So if I just sort of spin round as far to the right as possible over here, and then pan your camera around so you can see where you're going, dive straight through here, and then a little bit to the right again just to line your car up. You want to do as little turning through there as possible, but for God's sake watch out for those walls. Now uphill here, got some containers on the right, and it is possible, even though they do seem smooth on the sort of side of them, it is possible to catch sort of bits of them that are sticking out. So I'd say it's better to brake a little bit earlier and just make sure you keep away from those containers. And then nice and smoothly through here, watch out for that bump. Brake about here just before that silver barrier on the corner, nice and wide, turning late so that your car's facing straight nice and early back onto this bit. Inside, outside, back onto here, to the right, keep to the right for the time being, cut to the left and keep your car straight up here. Right, you'll notice over that bump just then when my car was in the air, my car was not turning because of the line I took, and that's important because if, say I put myself in a compromised position, say that before I did that, rather than being to the right over here before I went through that corner, say I was to the left and I go up here and I start turning like this, car slides. Not a very good idea, especially at higher speeds. It would have been a lot worse than that. So when you come out of there, keep the car straight until you landed and you're stable, and then back onto here. So there we go. That's my talk to a lap, and I'm now going to drive a full lap.